Hello friends, welcome. Friends, today I have brought before you a very interesting analysis. This is in regards to India's trade situation is concerned, which is, when I say trade, I basically mean goods trades, not service trades. Now, why this analysis is important? Because when we are importing more and exporting less, it has a negative impact on our current account deficit, which puts lot of strain in our overall balance of payment situation is concerned. Now, balance of payment is important because it kind of accumulates foreign reserve and increases India's leverage in the arena of world, because the better the balance of payment situation of India is concerned, then what happens is your currency stabilizes and then you have got more leverage against other countries from the point of view of purchasing power. So that's why this analysis is extremely important, and I have created dashboards which I am going to take you through, and each and every dimensions of this analysis is going to be in depth seen and analyzed, so that you can understand where we stand and where we are heading. So the first chart is a chart which talks about top 10 import destination. So let's look at this 10 import destination countries which are ranked by the latest value of imports, which is for FY Q1, FY25 Q1. So this is being ranked as per the value that we have accomplished in the Q1 of financial year 2025. So as you see that since these are imports, right? I have selected imports. So you can see China has been the top importer country for India. Now, if you look at the total imports as far as, because these are cumulative numbers, quarter. So if you read this, you will see that these are cumulative numbers. These are increasing quarter by quarter, and then as the financial year ends, the value dips down and then it increases. This is how you have to read this chart. Now, if you see here, the latest financial year, means the earlier financial year, which was FY24, you will find that the total imports in value terms was $675 billion, out of which China contributed to around $102 billion, which means that if you do in percentage term 102 divided by 675, it comes out to be around 102 divided by 6, it comes out to be 15.11%, right? So this in the quarter that we are recently in, we have done around $26 billion of import from China. Now, if you look at the imports from China, you will find that there is a consistent trend of increase. Like if you look at FY21, we did $65 billion. Then in FY22, we did $95 billion. Then FY23, we did $99 billion. And FY24, we have done $102 billion. So there has been a consistent increase. And if you go back in the earlier financial year, you will see the similar trend. So this is very, very important, that our dependency on China is increasing year by year. It's a fact. Now, our dependency on Russia also seems to be increasing. This is on account of crude imports, because we know that we have been importing crude oil from Russia since the start of this issue that we are, the Ukraine-Russia war. And after that, we are actually facing a lot of problems as far as our oil imports are concerned, and Russia is giving us probably a cheaper deal, and therefore we have gone over and started importing from there. So Russia has also become a very important trading partner as far as import of crude oil is concerned. Now UAE also, if you see that UAE is also a very important trading partner as far as imports are concerned. Here also, we'll deep dive into products, as we go further in the chart. I'm just giving an overview. You'll find that our imports from UAE is also seeing an increased trend, except for FY24, there has been a slight decrease, right? US is also the similar situation. FY24, there is a slight decrease. And then if you look at the other countries, you will find similar phenomena as far as imports are concerned. Now let's look at the export trends. Now if you do exports for various countries, you will find that our largest exporter country is USA, and this has been and our exports are seeing an increased trend as far as USA is concerned. In the financial year of FY24, we have done $437 billion of exports. If you see, exports are also increasing, and I'll tell you why exports are increasing, and which is actually leading to increase in imports also. We will look into that particular aspect as we go forward with this video, but let's see that how various countries are contributing to our export. US is one of the major countries where we are exporting. And United Arab Emirates is also a very important country, because you see our exports are seeing an increased trend as far as UAE is concerned. Netherlands is also one of the important countries, and UK, right? And on China, interestingly, you will find that our exports are seeing a downward trend. This is very, very concerning. We are importing more from China, exporting less. So this, disbalance of trade with China is kind of decreasing India's leverage. We are not able to export, in increasing number, in quantum, and China is concerned. And this is very clear, because if you see in FY22, we did $21 billion of export, and then the number went down to $15 billion in FY23, and FY24 we just did $17 billion. So we are not. So it's a very concerning trend, right? So this is as regards to export and import on a high level. Now let's go to the next chart. Next chart is very, very important. So here what we will do is we will basically talk about India's deficit. Now deficit is important, and that will give you an indication as to where we are heading and why our trade is showing a sign of imbalance. Now look at this chart very carefully. This is again a chart for 36 quarters, starting from FY16 Q2 till FY25 Q1. So all the 36 quarters has been displayed in one chart so as to get a bird's eye view. So you will find that our trade deficit end of every financial year is on an increasing trend till FY23 Q4. You see, $264.9 billion of trade deficit, and the number went down in FY24 Q4 to $241.1 billion. Not account of any fundamental organic changes that we did through curtailed trade deficit. You see, it is an account of petroleum and crude products, because petroleum prices went down. So if you see that the trade deficit as regards to petroleum, which was in FY23 Q4 $111.9 billion, went down to $94.6 billion, and that is why our trade deficit has decreased. But there is one item which is a matter of huge concern, which is electronic items. And India has done some constructive policies which to increase manufacturing, local manufacturing. But unfortunately, friends, if you look at the data, you will find that all our policies have not given results till date, which is including the PLI policy. So this item, if you see item number 2, which is saying electronic items, you see that our trade deficit on account of electronic items are seeing in an increasing trend, especially in the later quarter. See, in FY22 Q4, $56.2 billion, and then there is a slight decrease of $50.8 billion. But in FY24, we are back to square one to the same level, which is around $56 billion. Because see, this 56.2 and 55.7 is almost similar. This is in spite of the fact that we have done so much amount of work on PLI and promoting and giving subsidies, but still we have not been able to drive electronics export, and that's why our trade deficit on account of electronics is increasing leaps and bounds. Still, even though we are doing huge amount of export of smartphones from India to the tune of $18 billion, and I'm going to show you this number as we go forward in this video. So you will find that in gems and jewelry also our trade deficit is on rising trend. You see, in FY24 Q4 it is $47.7 billion, which is also a matter of concern. Why there should be a trade deficit on gems and jewelry? Not very clear, because this should not be the case, and there is a trade deficit rising trend. Machinery also, you see the trade deficit in rising trend. So fundamentally, friends, there are certain problems that we are facing as far as our fundamentals are concerned as far exports. So these are not getting corrected, even though we have brought in good amount of policies which are supposed to correct these deficiencies and increase our trade balance of payment with respect to the world. Now let's look at the commodities, because here what we did was basically we looked at the deficit, but we now will look at the imports and export with respect to various commodities, because that was deficit. Now we are going to look at imports and export. So as regards imports are concerned, right, if you look at imports, right, and the commodities which are listed down in this chart here, again the structure of the sheet is similar in nature. We are basically looking at 36 months. You will find that the imports have increased to $678.2 billion in FY24. See, there has been a huge increase, except for the fact that the peak was in FY23, which was $716 billion, and there has been a slight decrease because of the less import on crude oil. Because if you see, $162.2 billion have decreased to $139.3 billion. So if you look at our balance of payment situation on account of trade on goods, is significantly impacted by energy imports, and which is highly volatile, and therefore India has to take this into consideration, that as the prices of petroleum increases in the world, our BOP situation also gets disturbed. So then same situation is regards to petroleum products also. If you see, it is $47.2 billion in FY23 and then it is $39.4 billion in FY24. Then gold. Gold is also a very important item where we are basically importing significantly. So if you see here, the gold imports basically increased to, it was peaking at FY22 to $46.2 billion, and then again in FY24 it peaked to $45.5 billion, right? So there are other items like electronic item, you see, but electronic, there is a problem here, because these electronic items is broken down into multiple electronic items. See, item number 5, if you see here, item number 5, I'll just again show you. Item number 5, electronic components. Then we have telecom instruments, and then computer hardware and peripherals. These three items are very significantly contributing towards our import. Now, electronic component, you see, the total imports that we have done in FY24 is $34.4 billion, which is equal to that, almost equal to that of petroleum products, electronic components. Now, telecom instrument, if you see this, it is $18.5 billion. And then in computer hardware and peripherals, $15.5 billion. Now, if you add all these three together, so let's do an addition here, then you will see that where we stand as far as our electronic imports are concerned. You see $67.9 billion. So it is more than, your petroleum products. So it's a matter of great concern. Now, let's look at exports. Now, if you look at exports, you will find that as far as exports are concerned, we have done reasonably good, but because our imports are increasing, the value they are deriving out of exports is shrinking and diminishing. Because if you see, in FY24, we did an export of $437.1 billion, out of which petroleum product was $84.2 billion. Then we have exported drugs on account of around $21.7 billion. Then we have telecom instrumentation. I told you that we actually are doing very good as far as mobile phones export is concerned. So this is reflected here, and I'm going to show you this number, $18 billion, separately in one of the charts. So these are the three main category of item where we are, although there is one more, which is pearls and semi-precious stone. We are exporting around $18.9 billion. So these are the four important items where we are exporting. Now let's go to the next chart, which is going to be very significant, because what we are going to do in this chart is we are going to analyze countries versus product. So let me just take my face out of this chart so that you can see it properly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you and explain to you what this dashboard talks about, right? So if you look at this dashboard, there are two dashboards. Dashboard number 1 on your left hand side and dashboard number 2 on your right hand side. So what is this dashboard on your left hand side? This dashboard is listing. First, there is one block here, which you see here, this block. This is the total imports, because I'm showing imports only. I can basically show export also. If I have time, I'm going to show you export, but I'm now focusing on import because that is the major concern. Now here also, this is the same thing, imports, right? Both the blocks are same for both the charts. Now what is below this chart, this particular block here and this block here, these are what? These are broken into This particular chart, which is on your left hand side, is top 10 products for out of this 25 products for countries. Means we are not talking about all products. We are only talking about 25 products. So if you look at this total here, which is on the top, these are for all products, okay, importing. Now this grand total down here, this is for 25 products. So try to understand this chart, then only it will make sense. So this particular portion is only for 25 products, top 25 products. So what I have done is that I've totaled the top 25 products and put it on as grand total here, but listing only 10 products in this dashboard. Similarly, here also if you see, this is total, this is top 25 countries, right? And I'm only listing the top, out of the top 25 countries, I'm listing only 10 countries. So you will see, notice one thing, that this block and this block is same. Similarly, this block and grand total is going to be same. What is going to be different is this particular portion. Here it is products and here it is countries. So why I have created a chart like this, a dashboard like this? Because it will help you understand these important countries from the point of view of imports and what we are importing from there. That is why I have. So what I'm going to do, I'll pick up these countries one by one, not all of them, 3 or 4. And then as I pick these countries, you will see what are the category of products which we are importing. So without wasting further time, let me just drop down and show you. So first country that I am going to pick is Russia, okay? Because that is the top country in the list. So if you look at Russia, you will find that in Russia, what we are doing, we are importing what? Petroleum crude, as I told you in the earlier chart, $46.5 billion in FY24, right? And then there are some other items which are of smaller quantum. So major is crude, right? So that is one, Russia. So let's do China. Okay, let me just first, let's do China. So now in China, so I think the Russia is also being included here. So let me just take out Russia and then I do China. So when I do China, so you'll find that what are we doing with China? What kind of products that we are importing from China? You will see clearly here. What we have done, we are importing electronic components to the tune of $12.1 billion in FY24. Computer hardware, $8 billion. Telecom instrument, $6.8 billion, right? And then electronic instrument, $4 billion. Can you imagine the kind of electronics that we are importing from China? So if you see this number, which is showing here $66.3 billion, which is here $66.3 billion, is only for 25 products, by the way. Only for 25 products, and I have listed down only 10 products out of those 25 products. So this number, as far as China is concerned, is much higher if you include all products, right? So the total import is $78.2 billion, out of which 25 products, top 25 products from China is $66.3 billion, and you can imagine the kind of imports that we are making from China as far as electronic is concerned. Now I will add one more dimension to it. I will add Hong Kong too, because Hong Kong is almost like a part of China. So if I add Hong Kong, you can imagine the kind of electronics that we are importing from China and Hong Kong, which is going to be very significant. Imagine now, this is now $18.1 billion from, it has risen from 12. Telecom instrument, $8.7 billion, right? Then we see electronic instrument, $4.6 billion, right? And then we have got, so that's all. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add these numbers and show you out of the $83.5 billion, how much is electronics import from Hong Kong and China together. So let me add, so 18.1, then I'm going to do telecom instrument, which is around 20, now it is 26. Then computer hardware, it is 36 point, now if you add 30 computer hardware, it becomes 36 point something. And now if you add electronic instrument, it becomes $41 billion. So out of $83.5 billion, $41 billion of electronics which we are importing from China and Hong Kong together. Can you imagine this? So that is where we are standing, and that's why our import dependency on China is increasing day by day. We have not been able to contain our electronic dependence on China, and therefore India is losing leverage day by day as far as electronics are concerned. Okay, So now let's look at the other country, United Arab Emirates, right? So I'll just take this out, and I will basically use United Arab Emirates. So if I choose United Arab Emirates, our import is again crude, you see, petroleum products, gold, and then these are all, so the major is petroleum, and then petroleum products, then pearls, gold, and some other items. So I think we are done as far as the imports are concerned. Now let's do one thing. Let's now switch gears and let's do exports, because we will use the same chart and basically talk about exports. So let's do exports on both sides. Or before we do export, let's dive into one more detail. So what we will do is, let's use this chart, and what we will do is, we will basically now look at electronic components, because electronic is very, very important. So I will choose all these electronic items, the consumer electronic items, then electronic components, electronic instrumentation, telecom instrumentation. Why I am doing this? You will be able to see how China stands against other countries. That's why I did this, right? So let's look at this number and see how China. So if you look at China and Hong Kong together, all these items which I've selected in the multivariable drop-down menu, you'll see that total import of electronics from all other countries, from the point of view of this 25 countries, not all countries, 25 countries, is $5.6 billion of the chosen 4 items which I chose from this drop down menu. So you'll find China and Hong Kong, it is 22.9 plus 8.5, and then other countries are small. Taiwan is only $4 billion, Singapore is $4.6 billion, Korea is $3.5 billion, Vietnam is $2.8 billion, US is $2.3 billion as far as our imports are concerned. You can imagine the dependency on China and Hong Kong as electronics are concerned. So that's why I wanted to do this, so that you understand where we stand as far as our dependency on electronics on China is concerned. Now let's switch gear and let's do exports. Right, so if I do exports here, you will be able to see where we are exporting, right? And I'll do all the items here. So if you look at exports, again the same philosophy of reading this chart, you will find that as regard exports are concerned, we have got what? Petroleum products, telecom instrumentation, where the smartphones are there, right? And then we have some other items, drugs, electronic machinery, etc. And where we are exporting, US, UAE, Netherlands, Singapore, and China is 10th. See, that's why it's like a very difficult situation as far as China is concerned. So let's do this. Let's look at smartphones, because smartphone is a very interesting item which we should basically be investigating a little bit more depth. So let's do smartphones. So if I do smartphone, I think smartphone is not a category of item here. So telecom instrumentation is there. So maybe smartphone is not there. So let's do telecom instrumentation. Telecom instrumentation export, yeah, because here the smartphone is going to get captured. So you will see here, out of the $14.8 billion of exports that we did in FY24, USA contributed to around how much? $5.8 billion, Netherlands is $1.3 billion, United Arab Emirates is $2.7 billion, UK is $1.2 billion, and other countries are small. So mainly our exports as far as electronics smartphones are concerned is limited to US, Netherlands, UAE and UK. And UK is actually becoming a very important trading partner. That's why India is pushing for free trade agreement with UK, and that is why you can see this from these dashboard, how important UK is. Right now at the end, because the time is now short, so I will end here as far as these charts are concerned. I will just go to one more chart which is going to do a little bit of deep dive as far as our electronic import and export in one single chart. So this chart is pretty important and everybody should look into this chart, because this is breaking down our import and export as well as deficit in the minutest level of granularity. So what I have done, let me explain this chart. So this chart has got both imports, all three, import, exports as well as trade deficit. So the trade deficit is in the top row. So if you look at this number, this $60 billion is the trade deficit for this 12 months. So these 12 months are displayed here like this. So all the columns of 12 months are displayed here. So you'll find the individual trade deficit of electronics for individual months. You'll see that consistently our trade deficit is within the realm of $5 to $4 billion. on a monthly basis on electronics are concerned, right, which adds up to around $60.5 billion for a period of last 12 months. Out of which we have imported $92.5 billion, and we are importing consistently between $6 to $7 billion, as you can see from this particular row. Out of which you will see monolithic IC, these digital circuit integrated IC, $14.3 billion, right, which is roughly around 15 to 16% of the total electronic imports, IC. And then there are some other, this other is nothing but components of mobile phone. PC and laptop is around $5.4 billion, memory is around $4 billion, and there's some other which is $4 billion. So you can imagine that most of the components are getting imported, which is resulting in an export of smartphone, which is for the last 12 months $18 billion. So we are importing electronic components, we are creating smartphone and exporting. The value add is minimal, almost zero. It may, even if there is a value add, it may be within a factor of 5 to 6%, because there is no value add. Otherwise, how the trade deficit on electronics is going on increasing? So one has to ask this question. So if you look at the overall export of electronic item for last 12 months has been $32 billion, out of which smartphones constitutes around more than 50%, which is around close to 60%. 60% export is only smartphone, and we are importing electronic components to make smartphones, and others are very, very insignificant. So friends, I don't want to carry this video forward, otherwise it will become too long, but I hope that you got a very good gist as to where we stand as far as our trade situation is concerned. So just to summarize, electronic trade deficit is going haywire. It is not coming under control, in spite of the fact that we have come out with all kind of PLI policies, etc. We are supporting the telecom companies, the hardware companies manufacturing phones, but looks like that they are not adding much value, and that's why trade deficit is increasing. The second important point is our leverage with China as far as trade is concerned is decreasing day by day, because we are importing more and exporting less to China, and we are more dependent as far as our exports are concerned in 4 countries: USA, UAE and UK and Netherlands. I think Netherlands. I have to go back to the other chart and see. But you can basically pause the video and look at these dashboards. These dashboards actually took me a huge amount of effort to create this dashboard. So hope you like it, and I am very grateful and happy that you have remained till the end and watched this video. And thank you for that. And I'll come back to you with a new video next time. Thank you very much.